Kumlen and Ablat Gemara. We are up to the Dalud Amr Aleph of the Sukah, and we're still looking about the heights of a sukkah. It says the Gemara, we're in the Dalud about 10 lines from the top of the page, and now the Gemara will bring a number of halachas that were studied in Yeshiva Rabashi. It says the Gemara, what happens? We have a sukkah that's above 20 amas. The hutzin yordim b'teichaf amma, and then you have these, the ends of these twigs that are below the 20 amas. And the question is, the bulk of the schach is on top of 20 amas, but you have a certain amount of schach, the ends of the branches that are going within the 20 amas. Does that render the sukkah kosher or not? So we say, it depends. The parts of the twigs that are inside the sukkah, it provides more shade than sun, than shade, it is kosher. But if not, psula. If the parts of the twigs that are in the sukkah, if you remove the twigs of the schach itself, you move the schach itself, and what you have left does not have more shade than sun, so therefore that's possible schach, therefore it's possible. Okay, the shame try to compare this Gemara more in Erevin. The taste of the pshat is that if you remove the top one, the bottom one will fall down. Doesn't have enough, nothing to hold on to grab. Is too weak, and the wind will just blow it away. So therefore, it's no good. So what about the other way around? 10 tefachim high. Go hutzin yoidin, and you have the end of the branches that come down below 10. Now we learned before the minimum size of a sukkah is 10 tefachim. Savara Bailam and Bible follow the same reasoning. Im Chamasim, Rubitzlasim, this instance is the opposite, the converse. If there is more sun than shade, so it's not really kosher schach, so technically there's no schach there, and you have a kosher sukkah. Kesheda, Amalei Rav, and it said Hadida Sruchi. This is a Dida Srucha. It's not a livable home. The Ein Adam Dor Bedida Srucha. You cannot live in such a dira. So Rav is saying that even though the schach, the halachically is not considered schach, the fact is that it removed or diminished some of the space that you have, and this is a bare minimum, it's 10 tefachim high, so it's not a kosher sukkah. So Rava comes along with a svara. Why? It's 20 amas. We had to bring 3 different explanations, and there's a fourth one which we don't know. Why above 20 amas is possible? When it comes to below 10, the Rava says it's a svara. It's not a dida. It's a dida sruchi. The Gemara is going to ask later, how do you know? And we try to bring a limit. We're going to have to, the next 2 days, today and tomorrow, we're going to learn how do you know 10 tefachim. So this is because Rava's svara is like only midrabanan. Sounds like lechatchil it shouldn't be midrabanan. Maybe the evidence all right. We're asking how do you know, but even the evidence, a sukkah has to be 10 tefachim, and that's what we bring a pasuk for. But this is lechatchil. We can't sit in such a sukkah.
What's the whole logic of the 10 tefachim, or is it just a limud?
So Rava is saying a logic. The Gemara is going to soon ask.
The 10 tefachim is kosher sukkah. The whole thing is sukkah.
The 10 is a person can sit in. If it's 10, 7 by 7, a person can sit there.
You can sit in 10 tefachim.
Try. I told you yesterday. Chacham Tzvi says.
I probably would have a hard time too.
We learned that the Zerubah says. We learned yesterday. I told you that Trumas Hadesh learned based on that Marshchai that we talked about that a person can sleep. We're about sleep in an area of 10 tefachim high, 7 by 7.
Okay, but it's laying down.
Try. We can lay down. So 7 tefachim is this area right here.
Oh, 7 tefachim.
7 tefachim by 7 tefachim. Because the Mordechai says if you cannot sleep in it, the sukkah is possible. So he says from here you see a person can sleep. You bundle yourself, tie whatever it is. The Chacham Tzvi mocks it. He actually, but
So in Gemara Shabbos beginning, it's also
oh yeah.
Anyway, they're talking about hobbits. You know, talking about hobbits.
Okay, actually, we do know they were all tall. Remember, we had somebody to reach this the height of somebody's height, somebody.
But yesterday we were talking about the whole thing about it's all about fitting into the space.
That's right. And somehow or another, a person can fit in. As better. Later on, one of the things it says is tiyul, taking a spatzir. And the Mordechai says if you cannot do everything you're doing, how you take a spatzir in that area. Okay. Says the Gemara further. Now we're going to learn a series of dinin. Says the Gemara, what happens? You have a sukkah above 20 amas. But what you did was a bundle, but you built there a platform, a table, can get from. So you look at the first picture there, you see that a sukkah has to have 3 walls. So it goes from one end to the other end. So basically, around the platform, you have your 3 kosher walls, 7 tvachim on each side, and then the back wall. Al Pnekula, if there's a hechsha sukkah on that platform, shada, that sukkah is kosher. Because inside the sukkah is less than 20 amas, even though the walls themselves are greater, but inside the sukkah is less than 20 amas. The problem is not the wall when it comes to 20 amas, it's the schach. That's the 20 amas. In fact, so if you're sitting on top of the platform with the schach, it's less than 20 amas. Who cares? Nobody's sitting. You can't sit under the platform. It's the big machlek is a shiny. What about the rest of the sukkah? Rashi here says that the rest of the sukkah is kosher. It falls under the category we'll learn later in the Zion. Pesel hayotzim and hasukkah. The din over there is if you have one wall that goes, let's say, 30 tvach, and the other wall that goes 10 tvach, the opposite wall. So the din is you can eat in the sukkah even with the opposite wall is not covering, because pesel, the schach hayotzim and hasukkah is kosher. So Rashi uses that swara, the same thing over here. The Rosh and others argue. They say, "What are you talking about? Over there, you have a proper wall. You have a proper wall going all the way out, and everything is proper. The other wall didn't go all the way out, and as long as you have we'll see later, a tefach or whatever you need, it's kosher. Over here, the problem is beyond that platform, it's not kosher. Neither side is kosher. It's above 20 amas, and so therefore it's not kosher. Others say, okay, over there is worse. And yet we say, why there's worse? If you only wanted to build 2 walls on a bit, you should have built 2 walls and the other wall 7 tvachim, and that's it. Because you built a 10 tvachim, I'm just picking numbers out there. But because you built a 10 tvachim, you showed no, I'm not interested in the bare minimum. This is what I want for my sukkah. So the chayil is as if I'm making a statement. My sukkah ends with that 3rd wall ends at 10 tvachim, and the chiddush is it doesn't matter. It's still pesel yatzim sukkah. Surely over here we didn't show that you're not interested in the rest of the sukkah. You don't have a platform big enough or something. Next, right? Umin Hatzad. What about if you put the platform the way on this other picture here? You put the platform that only has 2 walls surrounding it. So now we have to learn a new halach here. Yesh misvas itzvul if the distance between the end of the platform to the wall is daled amas, 4 amas or greater, psul is possible because there's no connection between the wall and the platform. So the platform itself, the 3rd wall. So all you have is the 2 walls surrounding the platform. It's not kosher. However, this is a halacha that we use all the time in Sukkah. If it's less than 4 amas distance between that wall and this platform, psulit is possible. Why? Sorry, is kosher. Why is it kosher? This is known as doifen akuma. Doifen akuma means big machlek is a shiny what it means. So Rashi here brings only 1 pshat. The Rashi every time brings 2, and here he says this. Rashi says we imagine that the schach on top, the puzzle is schach on top, forms part of the wall. So now this wall goes like this, and therefore it's all wall. You cannot sit under this part of the sukkah because it's wall. But basically the wall is touching the kosher schach. The wall is touching the platform. Why the wall platform? Because since the schach between the platform and this wall is puzzle, and it's less than 4 amas, so we imagine that schach became part of the wall. It's as if now the wall is touching the kosher schach, and it is kosher. The other way of learning is we imagine the wall moves over to where the kosher schach is. You move the whole wall over. You completely excise the section of the schach that's sitting on top, that's not on top of the platform, and the wall therefore is touching. My nafkamin halach between these two. So the Ran said the nafkamin will be very simple. What happens in this section of the schach there's no platform? There's a gap of a few tvachim, 2 tvachim of space. So if you learn, or if you have a gap of 3 tvachim, which is a gap. So if you learn the wall moves over, who cares? The wall moves over and touching the kosher, it's still kosher. But if you learn that the wall becomes part of the wall, where that gap is, ends the wall, and therefore it's no longer connected. Because in fact, we learn also that we don't use 2 rules. We don't use Deif and Akuma and Lavud at the same time. You can't use both rules. Only 1 rule. That would be an afkamina. Says, all right. Tanina, so my Kamasa, what are you trying to teach us? I mean, Tanina, we learn the Federation mission. It says, Bayis, a house, a house that does the ceiling open up. You place chach on top of that. Between the wall. Where are the walls for this chach? So if the distance between the walls and that the opening in the roof is daladamas greater than 4 amas or greater, psul is possible. If it's less, it's kosher. Why? Because we imagine these dreifin akumas. So what's your chiddush here? But the Gemara, Mao would attain. In fact, they're receiving a bigger chiddush. Talking about all 4 walls of dreifin akumas. Here you're talking about 1 wall. Nay, Mao would attain. I would have thought, Hasamu the chazil dreif. Over there, the walls are all right. They're all the right height and everything else are all right. And therefore, what we did was we moved it over. But over here, it's not suitable to be a wall. Why? Because it's what do you call it? More than great 20 amas. A malaika, Marshall, come to teach you. Because we would have thought because it's higher than 20 amas, the walls, it wouldn't be kosher. Marshall, that it is, and we say Deifanakun. Next day. And we'll come back to this soon. Let's say the wall was higher than 20 amas. Big Machleg is a training when we say a sukkah is higher than 20 amas, it's possible. But I Tam learned it's not pshat of Tesla base. It's not pshat is chach is possible. It's just that it's chach isn't kosher. Which means that if you fix it up, you don't say tas of layman and also and all that because it wasn't. Because we know when something becomes possible, in order to fix it up, you have to lift it and do it all over again. It's not possible. Just you haven't completed the job yet. It's not kosher. Others will know it's taka possible. But right now we're talking about the walls. So the walls here are higher than 20 amas. We would have thought in such a case we wouldn't use the rule of Deifanakun. Commercial and we do. Above 20 amas, you build a platform in the middle. So not along the side of the wall, but in the middle of the sukkah. If there's a distance of 4 amas between every side, possible. Okay, so you put a platform in the middle, we'll say Deifanakun. Asking one of my commercial, that means Deifanakun. You just said that. I would have thought that we say in the case of an itztaba where the walls are not kosher, maybe there we will limit it to 1 wall. In the case of bayish and nifris, you already can say 4 walls, but over there the walls are kosher walls. In the case of the walls are not kosher walls, and maybe then will only use on 1 wall. But to use all 4 walls and say no, we do. Says the Gemara when the dollar all of the bottom of the page, 3 lines from the bottom. Now let's talk about a sukkah that's less than 10 fachim high. So the sukkah is rendered possible, but what you did was you dug a pit downwards inside the sukkah. So if you're standing in this pit, there's 10 fachim from the ground to the chach. The question is it kosher or not? Says the Gemara. The distance between that pit and the wall is greater than 3 tefachim, then it's possible because there's no walls to this pit. So where the area where you're sitting, it might be 10 tefachim to the chach, but where are your walls? It's not contiguous at all to the pit. But we're talking about that this pit is now 10 tefachim high and 7 tefachim wide. But if it's less than 3 tefachim, then we'll use the rule of lavud, and the shade is kosher. We'll say that it's attached to the wall, and it is kosher. Big machlek is it kosher only in the pit or kosher also in all the sides as well, if it's kosher enough? Says you might understand. Why is it in the case of 20 amas with the platform? You told me that the distance between the platform and the wall is up to 4 amas. There you come at 4 amas, right? To say Deifanakun. Why when it comes to a pit in the ground, you tell me it has to be within 3 tefachim, and you find the rule of love. Very simple. Passum over there, the Isla Deifen Pachas Ma'arba Amasagi. Over there, the wall exists. Now, even though the wall itself is greater than 20 amas, but nevertheless, the wall itself can go up to the sky. The walls can go up to heaven. There is a wall. Over here, on the other hand, over here, when you have a house that's less than 10 tefachim high, you don't have wall. The walls are less than 10 tefachim. Walls are less tefachim are not valid walls. It's not called a wall. The problem is not only the schach, the problem is in the walls as well. of us, you want to imagine that this wall is halacha. You want to create walls. If you want to create walls, then David Akuma can't create a wall. David Akuma means you have an existing wall. Akuma, we're going to bend it over. And even though that wall is above 20 amas, and we said before in the Gemara, it's not equal to the walls of the case of a house, which is the right size. Here it's higher, but it's still a wall. So because even though it's not a kosher wall, but it's a wall. So therefore, we're moving it over. Here, you have a wall in the first place. It's not a question. It's not a wall. A wall less than 12 is not a wall. So in order to be able to create a wall, you need to have, it has to be within 3 tvachim to love it. So therefore, if it's within 3 tvachim, love it will create a wall, and if it's not, it's not. Awesome. The Yisrael Daifen, tvachim ma'amas, it's enough. All we need is 4 amas. Over here, when the sukkah is less than 10 tvachim, you don't have any walls. You want to create walls. Yes, can you lie? It's not now.
So what you're creating space within the ground.
Size of a sukkah, 7 by 7, all the dimensions of a sukkah. But the problem is the wall. Where are your walls? From the ends of your pit to the wall. So you had an existing sukkah that was 9 tvachim. So you made another tefach deep, 7 by 7 dimensions. So you have a kosher sukkah inside, but where your walls? So you need to go. Places. No, if it's more than 3 tvachim, I don't know. And that's what you just raised the interesting question, because places here in Erevin and other places, people, as a big army in Rashi, if we combine, let's say, the wall surrounding the pit and a wall above the pit, can you combine the two together and say it's one wall or not? Based on this Gemara right here, that say Fachim, are we combining the wall around the house, around the service? There's 9 Fachim together with the 1 tefach that's dug in here in the pit. That does combine. Gidud Chamisha, the Gemara we have. Gidud Chamisha. Okay, but Taisus asked the question: why in Hilchos Shabbos? Where are you saying Taisus? Why in Hilchos Shabbos we have a similar situation? You need a minimum to be just a yachid, minimum of 10 tvachim high and 4 tvachim wide. So the Gemara that talks about what about if it's not 10 tvachim inside and you dug a hole? And nowhere does it say in the Gemara there that it's a shus yachid only if the walls of the house will be a mile away. It doesn't matter. What's the difference? Why here has to be within 3 tvachim? So basically, the Yisrael there's a chiluk between Hilchos Shabbos and Hilchos Sukkah. In Hilchos Sukkah, we need a wall for a house. A wall is not considered part of the house unless it's contiguous to the roof and so on. Over there, the purpose of the wall is not for a house. The purpose of the wall is to keep the rabbim out. What do I care where the walls are? As long as you have walls there and to keep the rabbim out, you have a shus yachid. But in Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah, as well, if around the whole those successors yachid and so on, or not. It was high to 20 amas, a bonnet you build there an almost a box, let's say. The box is 10 tvachim high, right? So what happens? The sukkah itself was 20 amas. Instead of an each of a platform, you build a box and you place it there. Now the box has walls. The box itself is 7 by 7 and has its own walls. So but Abaya thought that over here, let's say good asig mechitzasa. Let's say we are dragging the mechitzas upwards. It's a principle that we learned with the Shabbos. So let us say good asig mechitzasa, that the walls around this box will extend upwards. So therefore you have 10 tvachim and you have a good sukkah.
Only on the box.
Only on the box. So you have schach above, it's 20 amas, and the schach is 20 amas above. Above the box is less than 20 amas, so top of the box should be kosher. And here Rashi doesn't say, we'll say pesel hayotz and all that. Because these are your mechitzas. We're not doing Dave Nakum here. We're only using the mechitzas of the box. In other words, who cares where the wall? Wall could be 20 amas away. Who cares? The box has its own walls. Let's extend those walls from the box. Says the Gemara. A platform doesn't have walls. A platform is a piece of wood and 4 posts at the end. But here it's a box. So you have walls on all sides. Let's just extend it upwards. We're talking about that the walls themselves are 10 tvachim. The box is 10 tvachim high, so you have walls of 10 tvachim. So let's imagine that these walls are extending this. Even though the schach is 20 amas high, 21 amas high, imagine that these walls extend to the schach, and I'm sitting here within 19 amas of the schach at top. I got a kosher sukkah. That's what Abaye is saying.
Right, so you're inside the box.
Not inside, you're above the box.
So then where are the walls underneath you?
The box are underneath, yeah, walls underneath. That's what good ask is. If the walls of Mama surrounding you, there's nothing to talk about. It's discussion.
So why doesn't a platform have a walls too then?
The platform has no wall. Platform has 4 posts. So empty space all the sides. What's a platform? It's a big piece of board, let's say, and a post there, post there, post there. Which walls are going to go up? There are no walls. The same thing. That's an omud then. So an itzva is a specific kind of platform that you have like bleachers. So you have posts and that's it. So you have an omud with 4 walls and that are 10 tefachim high, and you're sitting atop the platform. So between where you're sitting and the schach is less than 20 amas. I wear my walls right around me. I can't see them. Good asking. Imagine they go up. Says Rabbi no. The mechitzas have to be visible, but here they're not discernible at all. Because where you're sitting, you don't see no walls at all. And the walls, they are part of the box. It doesn't look like walls, it's just a box. Says the Gemara. Okay, let's talk about that. Let's say you stuck into the ground 4 posts. All you have is 4 posts, no walls, 4 posts, and you make now. This is to do with the fact that we learned also. You'll see the bottom page. We learned, remember, Pesi Beroyos. We learned over there that when they used to go travel to the Beis Hamikdash, so there were wells all along the way. So to make it easier, now you're not, it's just a yachid the well. So what they did was they built the yom, these posts that each was an alma in both directions. So you have 4 posts. And we had a machlekes Rabbi Yehuda Chachamim when he said the animal osir rabim mevatlim mechitzas or not, whether you can actually carry out of the boy anywhere within those 4 walls or not. So here we're talking about kundation, 4 posts. And you place chach on top of it. Rabbi Yaakov says kosher. Rabbi Yaakov says you are kosher. We'll soon see what's going on here. But what's the machlekes? Why would Rabbi Yaakov say kosher? Well, you have 4 walls. You need 3 walls. By the way, Rashi says stam sukkah was always 3 walls. Well, that's how all sukkahs used to be built, 3 walls. Now you assume the reason is because it's so hot. They didn't want to close themselves off. Why else would they only build 3 walls? Even though we're machmir to have 4 walls. It says clearly, Stam Sukkah is Gimel Fams. So what's the base of this machlekes? I'm going to go to Rabbi Huna. Machlekes, according to Rabbi Huna, the machlekes is al sfas hagag. You built the post right on the edge of the roof. In other words, you have a wall beneath it, the wall of the house. And the question is, can you count the walls of the house as extending upwards, and they form part of the walls of your sukkah? So we're talking about where the sukkah is the width of the house. So you have 3 walls of the house, and the posts are on the 3 corners there. So we're assuming that the walls of the house continue going up. Say good asik. Machlekes as fast as Yaakov holds. I'm being good asik mechitzas. Over here is discernible the walls because these are walls of a house and they just go up. And Rabbanan Sabri, I'm being good asik mechitzas. But if let's say you built this post in the middle of the dach, in the middle of the roof. Where are your walls? The Hakapsul, everyone holds it possible. Of course it's possible. What's going to help 4 posts? Where are your walls? No mechitzas here. But Rab Nachman says, no. The Emtza Gag Machlekes. Nachman says in the middle of the Machlekes.
You have to have a mica, which means you would have.
But a mica doesn't have to be a wall. A mica could be anything that is 10 tefachim. You have a spring going across or something. And that's your thing. Number 1. Number 2, let's say you didn't make a mica. Let's see, make my as this one of the Shainim say. One of the Shainim say there's nowhere does it say. On the Gemara here we talked yesterday about 4 amas, and I told you before I have a hard time understanding who cares if 4 amas but a mica. So they all say. One of the earlier Chaim said, I can't remember who it is. That nowhere does it say there's an issa for you to walk on a roof if there's no mica. There's no such issa. It's the balabas of the chiyuv to put on a mica. And the Rebbe Sikha, they asked me, how can you make a bracha? The whole thing is the word of sakana, and vice is more than just the word of sakana. It's a mitzvah, I say, to build a michael. But Rab Nachman says, so Rab Nachman argues, and Rab Nachman says, Rab Nachman argues, and he said, Rabuna, no, I believe that in the middle of the roof is machlekes. Whether at the end of the roof is machlekes or not, we'll see in a minute. But in the middle of the roof is a machlekes where the posts are good enough. Why? Because Rabbi Yaakov says that these posts are a tefach each direction. And therefore a tefach can be considered already a mechitz as far as a sukkah is concerned. And you have a tefach going in each direction. And therefore we have 4 walls. And the Rabbanan say, no, you need 2 proper walls, and the 3rd wall could be a tefach. As we'll see later, even the third wall tefach depends where it is. It has to be really 7 tefach in the third wall. We'll see. So Amar be'emtza hagag machlek iboilu be'emtza hagag machlek. What's Nachman saying? They're arguing in the middle of the roof. Avos fas hagag yihako everyone's kosher. Or you bein bazu machlek. They're arguing everywhere. Take is a good question. Says the Gemara, Meisel will ask you a question on the Rav Nachman and Rav Huna. Rav Huna says the argument is only in the edge of the roof. In the middle, everyone agrees it's possible. And Rav Nachman learns that the machlekes is definitely in the middle of the roof, and whether a post of a tefach is good enough, sufficient. Meisel asks a question. No adzdalad kundeis ba'aretz. If you put 4 posts on the ground, there's no wall there at all. This sichich al gabon Rabbi Yaakov machshir clearly. If there's no walls, then yet Rabbi Yaakov's kosher must be this kosher, not because of the imaginary walls, but because these posts are tefach in each direction, and that is sufficient mechitza when it comes to the laws of sukkah. So be'emtza gag is a machlekes, a kasher Rav Huna. V'cham poisel v'ered again to gag dami. The ground is like in the middle of the roof. There's no walls. Look at machshir Rabbi Yaakov. Tiyuta Rav Huna. Tiyuta is a good question. Says the Gemara. Nachman. Now a question on Rav Nachman. It seems like they're only arguing on the ground, which means only in the middle of the roof. But if it's in the edge of the roof, even the Chacham will be made that is kosher, not because of the Indian are good enough, but because of the imaginary walls of the house. Even the Hakol Cheda, Lema to have it to you to the Rav Huna Betarti Kasher Rav Huna in both. Amalach Rav Huna said, you said that there, it seems here kosher, that's kosher. What's it called? Rav Huna said before. The whole machlekes is on the edge of the roof, and here it seems faket on the edge of the roof. Everyone is moide that they're only arguing in the middle of the roof, but in the edge of the roof, everyone's moide that's kosher because of imaginary walls. So that's not a question. Look at that. Even though he's a pretty idiot, he's still going to defend himself where he can. I'm going to what is other guy? Why are you inferring from me they're not arguing the edge of the roof? They're arguing both. So how come we only talk about a case on the ground? Tell you how far the will go. And even in the middle of the roof, even in the ground, but there's no walls, I feel the emtzigag nami machshi. Even in the middle, he is machsh as well. So we learned no atz arba kundesin ba'oret. What happens? You're stuck into the ground 4 posts. The sichich al gaban, you place chach on top of them. Rabbi Yaakov says here he clarifies his opinion. Kol she'ilu yechiku. These posts, let's say they're round. But if they're round, but if you're able to carve out of these round posts, the yesh behen tefach lekan v'tefach lekan, you're able to carve out and have the post going in one direction, let's say north, going one tefach, and east another tefach. If you can see that way, but even it's round, so round itself, a tefach round not enough. It has to be wider than a tefach, so that in order to be able to carve out 2 posts, each one should be a tefach in each direction. That's considered the yemid. That's 2 posts. By Pesi Beros, they say you need an amon. Over here, we say you need a tefach. But if not, otherwise, we don't treat it like a yemid. As the Pesach explains, Hilchos Shabbos is stricter than Hilchos Sukkah. Therefore, there you need an amon. And here, a tefach is sufficient. Rabbi Yaakov, the yemid is sukkah tefach. By a sukkah, a tefach is good enough. Not like over there, you need an amon. You need 2 the entire length, and the third one, even a tefach. I will see the Gemara the next 2 days from now. Next 2 days, what exactly how the third wall has to be. Not 10 tefachim high. Not that tefachim high. I mean, no. How do you know? I told you. Even though Rabbi said dirasruchi, that's only lechatchila. That's only midrabban. We know from the Torah. How do you know the sukkah has to be 10 tefachim high? And Teisha says from here, we learn on Hilchos Shabbos also that it's not considered a wall unless it's 10 tefachim high. Itmar Rab Reb Chanina, Rabbi Yochanan, Rab Chaviva. These 4 Amoraim all said, and then we say Masna Bekula say the Moed. That we learned that in Seder Moed, which we're learning right now. Kolki Hai Zug. Whenever you mention these 4 names, Chalufit take out Rabbi Yochanan, Uma'ayle Rabbi Yonasan, put Rabbi Yonasan. Or others say the comma goes right after Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Chaviva is the one who said. Rabbi Chaviva Masna Bekula. Rabbi Chaviva is the one who said. We learned a few generations later. We learned Oren Tisha. The Oren was 9. The Kapoidas Tefach. Kapoidas is 1 tefach. Hadikana saw a total of 10. Remember, we had the Rashi did the 3 different boxes, and we had a big problem with the Rashi shot. But we're just looking about here the way it is. See if it says, I will reveal myself to you with the barki. I will speak to you. The Abba says, I'll speak to you on top of the kapitis. Okay. And we just discussed that the Oren was 1.5 amos, will follow Rabbi Yehuda, that the Kalim was 6 tvachim, so it's 9 tvachim, and then the kapitis itself was 1 tvachim 10. And the Abish is above that. So the Abish is above 10 tvachim, and so on. But Tanya, we learned, Rabbi Yasi, the Abish never came down to this world. He was always above this world. But if the topic of Kapitis is a raya that 10 tvachim is another rishus altogether. A 10 tvachim is considered like the Abish is in another world. Moshe and Eliyahu never went above this world. Shenemar says Hashemayim, Shemayim laHashem, and Ba'aretz laSalim liAdam. We have 2 different worlds, and that's how it is. Yarda Shechina lamata for the Gemara. Shechina came down here. But see, it says Vayedid Havai al Hasinai. Abish came down Hasinai. Says Lamayla Masar Tvachim. Even though he came Hasinai, he never came on Hasinai himself. He was hovering above 10 Tvachim. You know, 10 Tvachim is a separate issue. I Vaksiv, it says in the Pasuk, Amdu Ragla Bayemahu, and that's referring to the Abish. Amdu Ragla Bayemahu al Harazaisim. The Abish was standing on Harazaisim. So again, Lamayla Masar Tvachim was above 10 Tvachim. Says he went, okay. So the Abish, wherever he came down, he was still above 10 Tvachim in his own domain. What about the other way around? Moshe never went to Shemayim. Vaksiv, it says in Pasuk, Moshe Ola El Olakim. Moshe went up to Shemayim, and so on. Lamata Masari went to Shemayim. He was below 10 tvachim from Shemayim. He was still in our world. Vayal Eliyahu, and Elisha witnessed how Eliyahu went Basa'ara with that big wind, he goes to wind Hashemayim to the heaven. Lamata Masari. He was always, even when he was a malach, he was below 10 tvachim. It says a pasuk, Ma'achas Pnei Kisa. He was holding on to the throne. Parshas Alavanaino, and he spread on him his clouds. He was holding on to the throne, and he went to Shemayim. Tamchel said, some people say this is Medrash Tanchum, is the Tanchum throughout Shas. That Melamed Shepide Shakai Meziv Shchina say that the Eibishter gave him from his Shchina. And Rashi says the word Parshas is made up of Pardish, Shchina Shakai, and Zayin Ziv. The Eibishter gave him from his Ziv. In other words, mankind was able to rise up to Shemayim. But I know Allah, when the clouds is on above him, the Matama Asara. If still he was below 10 tvachim from the kisei. Okay, you don't like the Parsha Lavanenu, you say he was below 10 tvachim, but he was holding on to the throne. The kisei covered. So obviously he was in Shemayim itself. Nay, Ishtar like kisei, the Eibush, the lowered part of the throne into Ad Asara until it reached the 10. But the Eibush himself, always, the kisei was always above, and Eliyahu and so on was never below. It was always below 10 tvachim. The Nocket Bay, and he held on to it. So therefore, since this, so what do we need from here? See from here that above 10 tvachim is a separate rishus altogether, and that's how we know that a sukkah has to be a minimum of 10 tvachim. So we consider the house. Okay, we'll stop here and came tomorrow. Mitzvah Hashem.